First of all, Minister, I want to thank the OPLA in relation to this bill. Even though it's a very kind of short bill, they've done a lot of work around the kind of the permissibility of this bill, and they found it legally permissible under many kind of stipulations of law, including European law, that this bill actually could, you know, if there was political will, could be legislated for. So that's important to note. And I want to welcome to our esteemed guests from all parts of the world today, our public gallery, and I think a lot of people here have shown a huge amount of commitment in relation to this issue. And Minister, this debate has gone on for decades. In my living memory, you know, the default position of the state has been to continue to criminalise and incarcerate people for drug use. And wherever you believe the moral and ethical issues around drug use, we've had 6 decades of this. Ireland has one of the highest drug-related deaths in Europe. Our prisons are overflowing in relation to addiction issues, in relation to the drug kind of industry. So you would think, after 6 decades of failure, that, you know, things will have moved on. And this debate has evolved, I think, you know, including myself. I think most people are more educated, they're more informed, and they're more enlightened in relation to what has gone before and what needs to happen now. Because, as I said before, you know, imprisoning people, criminalising people, stigmatising people doesn't work. And we've seen that in other jurisdictions. So it's important to move on. And I think many people are questioning the logic of actually our anti-drug laws in the first place. These were written in the 1970s. The war on drugs was in its full throes. And the war on drugs, if you really kind of scratch the surface, was kind of racism concentrated. It was class concentrated in relation to poor people, in relation to people of colour. But that's for another debate, for another time. And gladly, Minister, public opinion has progressed and has moved on. You know, they don't have all these hang-ups that others have in relation to, you know, discriminating people. And the Citizens' Assembly have projected that we need to move on from the status quo, because the status quo simply doesn't work. And the Citizens' Assembly made a lot of recommendations, including non-legislative recommendations in relation to treatment, in relation to how we approach this issue. But it also made a fundamental stance around, you know, criminalising people. And in order to do that, Minister, you have to change the law. As simple as that. That's the way our party would see it, and many others. Including the Citizens' Assembly making its recommendations around stop criminalising people, the Justice Committee had a very good report here 15 months ago, and it was a very kind of damning indictment of our criminal justice system, of continuously criminalising people. And in my interpretation, and many other people's interpretations, is that, you know, they advocated a different model of a different approach in relation to how we approach drug use and misuse. We all understand that. And that went further about, you know, stop criminalising people. Looking at different kind of models and jurisdictions and so forth. So, just to get on to what this bill is about. This bill is a very kind of moderate bill. I'm the first one to say that. We're the first one to say that. We think hopefully it's a precursor to full regulation of cannabis. So it's a kind of a moderate bill in relation to the simple possession of cannabis for personal use. That's up to 7 grams. And if anybody has asked me, well, why 7 grams? Look at Luxembourg, look at what Malta have done. They have kind of stipulated 7 grams. Small amount, but for their simple possession. So, if that was legislated tomorrow, somebody with that amount of cannabis would not be prosecuted, would not have to go through the criminal justice system, and so forth. So, in that kind of guise, then you would think that would make sense. You would think that would make sense. But, you know, sense, I think, sometimes got to the door. Now, the adult caution scheme was introduced in 2020. And that is extremely arbitrary. That is on the discretion of an individual guard in relation to those that they may find in possession of small amounts of drugs. So since 2020, the amount of people that have been charged and brought through the criminal justice system has exploded. It hasn't gone down. It has gone to over 6,500 people are brought to a court in relation to simple possession. So it's very arbitrary, and you know, do guards, individual guards, use their discretion? I think in most cases they don't, and it shouldn't be up to an individual guard. The law should change in relation to, you know, simple possession, and that's what, you know, Air Bill is about, and that's what the Citizens' Assembly have made its recommendations on. And it's very arbitrary. People being brought before a criminal court for simple, small amount of drugs simply doesn't work. Doesn't work. If somebody can tell me how it actually does work, I'm all ears. But we've been all ears for the last 6 decades, and that doesn't work. So I think a better system, Minister, is decriminalisation of the person. We're still in the kind of the paradigm of drugs being still illegal. You know, we're not talking about making things legal here in relation to this bill. You know, we're talking about decriminalisation of the person, and that's important. So the kind of, I suppose, the elephant in the room, Minister, is the black market. The black market, which is hugely profitable, and the people that control the black market are the criminal gangs that are very violent, and they will use all sorts of intimidation in relation to communities across the country. But largely they control the black market. And you have this kind of ridiculous system that we have in place that control drugs that are supposed to be controlled by the state are not controlled by the state at all. They're controlled by the black market. So why allow that to happen? And why let that kind of vacuum still constantly exist in relation to this issue? So Air Bill, Minister, is very moderate. I understand that the government are putting a timed amendment in relation to that, and that's very disappointing, I have to say. Very disappointing. I mean, the ink is hardly dry on the Citizens' Assembly's report, and you're saying that there needs to be a timed amendment in relation to this. I mean, this is a test of the will of your government in relation to this issue. I'm not naive, Minister, right? I'm convinced there is, well, I know, there's members of your government that are bitterly opposed to the recommendations of the Citizens' Assembly. They want the status quo to exist. And even today, a number of doctors have come out in relation to trying to, you know, disinformation about the bill that we're putting. Our bill is not about legalisation, it's about decriminalising the person if they choose to use cannabis. These kind of doctors that have equated, yesterday, have equated 7 grams of cannabis to 4 bottles of vodka. Now hold on. 4 bottles of vodka will kill you. And not only kill you, it'll kill your family as well. You're talking about 7 grams of cannabis with 4 bottles of vodka. Are they joking, are they? Are they actually serious? So this is the kind of level of discourse and debate that we're kind of up against here. You know, these number of doctors want, obviously, the status quo to continue. That's what they're saying. And the status quo doesn't work. As I said, the Citizens' Assembly, the Justice Committee have stipulated that the status quo does not work. Right? And the interpretation that most of us got from the Citizens' Assembly is that things need to move on through non-legislative kind of issues and legislative change around the Misuse of Drugs Act. Because this is where it's all at in relation to that kind of that legislation. So it's not, as these doctors have stated, it's not anti-health by any means. We're pro-people. Anti-drugs laws, Minister, are anti-people. They've always been, you know, incarcerating people, criminalising people, stigmatising people. That's what the last 6 decades have been all about. So we want to kind of dismantle that. And we want to give people, you know, a choice, and we want to stop stigmatising people, stop kind of marginalising people, and give people a right to exist without criminal sanction. And that's what this bill is about today. Thank you.
Thanks.